Okay, great. So we'll make a start. So hello everybody, and welcome to this Alliance Manchester Business School webinar. My name is Ekaterina. I may have spoken to some of you during your inquiry process. So I'm part of the fantastic MBA candidate recruitment team here at Alliance Manchester Business School. We're so pleased you could join us today for this webinar. Whether you are still in the research phase of finding the right MBA and the right school, whether you're already partway through your application form, you're definitely in the right place. We hope to give you some clear insider guidance during today's session. If you are not very familiar with the business school, so we are Alliance Manchester Business School. We're part of the University of Manchester, one of the UK's most respected and internationally renowned universities. The school itself was founded in 1965, and together with London Business School, we are the first joint business school in the UK. Since that time, the school has grown quite a bit. So we are now part of a 5-campus business school sort of setup. So we've got campus locations in Dubai, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Singapore, which offers our students fantastic global reach opportunities. We are thrilled today to be joined by two people who know the Manchester MBA inside and out. I hope so for both of you. So we have Chris Healy, who is head of MBA marketing recruitment and who works closely with prospective students during their MBA journey. And we also have the fantastic Helen Dowd, who is head of MBA admissions here at Alliance Manchester Business School, who oversees the entire admissions process and can share valuable tips on making a strong application. Together, Chris and Helen will walk you through what makes the MBA program distinctive, what they look for in applicants, and what you can do to put your best foot forward. So sit back, relax, get your questions ready, because we will be taking questions at the end of this session. And let's get started. So over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Ekaterina. I guess to start with, I thought I would provide you with some context in terms of the options that you have available. And I remember back in it was January 2020, and I was speaking at a conference, and I remember saying to the audience that there's never been a better time to study an MBA whilst working full time. And little did I know at that time was those words were going to become ever more apparent. But what I said then is still true. It still holds true today. And the key reason why I made that claim is because of the amount of options available for people to undertake an MBA whilst working full time. And there's so many different options. So for example, there will be some of you in this audience who, as a first choice, you might be looking for something that is a 100% online MBA. Over the past, since 2020, there's been 350 new fully online MBAs that have come onto the market. So that is, on one hand, an option that you have. And then on the completely other side, you have what we class as traditional executive MBA programs. And traditional executive MBAs are typically 18, maybe 24 months, and they have about 70 to 90 days of contact time embedded into those programs. They come at a very high cost. I often look at those traditional executive MBAs, and I say to people, if you can be away from the office for 70 to 90 days over that period of time, if you can be away from family for that period of time, and if you can afford such a high fee level, a traditional executive MBA is an amazing experience. and one that you should consider. But the reality is, very few people can tick all those three boxes. And I do believe ticking all three is paramount. And then what have you got in between those two options that I've mentioned? You have your evening, weekend, part-time MBAs. They've been around for a number of years. I do sort of look at them as dinosaurs to an extent now. And the reason I say that is because of what I know about MBA students. And what MBA students are looking for now, they're looking to have a wide global network. So if you do an evening or evening part-time MBA, whether you're based in San Francisco, whether you're based in Lagos, whether you're based in London, that option will be available to you, but you will only be studying with other people in San Francisco, with other people in Lagos, with other people in London. And people are looking for, and as I said, people are looking for that wider network. Then you have, for example, more distance type programs where you might have a week attendance at the beginning of the first year and maybe 5 days attendance at the end of the second year. Those options are there. And then you've got what we have on the Manchester MBA, which is almost, it sits in the middle, a hybrid, if you will, of blending in the online elements with that face-to-face. So I just wanted to set the tone, or set the scene, to give you an idea of what options are available to you, not just at Manchester, but in general. Now, this webinar is going to be more focused on admissions, which is why we have the pleasure of having Helen with us today. But before we go to the detail about MBA admissions with Helen, Helen, do you think you can share with the audience, some key highlights of the global MBA and the global executive MBA we have, and then we will go into the detail of admissions.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. It's lovely to be here with you and Katerina today, and to share some, real tips about admissions and the programs that we offer, what we call our Professional MBA suite. So that is our Global MBA and our Global Executive MBA that we refer to as GEMBA. But before I just give the highlights maybe of each of those, I just thought I would just talk a little bit about what makes both of those options really special. I've worked at the business school here in Manchester for many, many years. If you've looked at my LinkedIn profile, you'll probably get an idea how long. And I have to say, it's an absolute privilege to see our MBAs come through the program and really grow and develop in their careers. And having this professional suite of MBAs is such a fantastic thing, because it brings opportunities to so many more people to actually take a top MBA. So, of course, first of all, Alliance Manchester Business School, it has a fantastic reputation. We've got the triple accreditation, AACSB, Amber and Equus, which is something that only a small number of schools worldwide have. And then I'm sure you'll all agree that, in these days of, a really global business world, it's really essential, not just advantageous or nice for the experience, but really essential to study in a global context and to learn global perspectives. So, we have on our global MBA programs an extremely diverse and international student body. Each year we admit around 500 students from 70 countries, and they're studying across our centres in Manchester, Dubai, Shanghai, Singapore, and Hong Kong. So, you really do get to learn with people from all over the world across different industries, and that really adds to your experience and also your development opportunities. As Chris has touched on already, both of our programs use a blended learning format. So you get the best of having that online flexibility, but you also have what we call the face-to-face sessions. We call those workshops. So those are small, short experiences where you come to the business school and you can interact with your colleagues on the MBA. And those workshops, they're not lectures, they're really dynamic, they're really interactive, they're applied, they're energizing, you know, it keeps you really motivated. And you, like any MBA program, I think one of the things that you really gain from it is your network, you know, the opportunity to really learn from each other. So the programs are designed to fit in with your professional life so you can continue to work while you study. But I think what you can do is you can apply your learning immediately in your job. So yeah, you've got live business projects, you've got access to a global network. The Manchester Global MBA in particular, that's our biggest program. We have a lot of students around the world taking this program, and it's really designed for that mid-career person, you know, so it gives that a lot of flexibility. It's our most flexible option. So, and it's perfect for if you're looking to, you know, develop your career into those next leadership opportunities. And it has that blended learning. A highlight is you've got up to 31 days of face-to-face workshops. You've got options to take some of your core and elective workshops virtually as well. So it gives you more flexibility if you want to do a little less face-to-face as well. So if you need that flexibility, that's available to you. And the international exposure, as we mentioned, you can take your electives in some of our international centres, so you get a really amazing experience and widening your international network. But I think most importantly, it's about future-proofing your career. So you build strategic and critical thinking, complex problem solving, you get that resilience, understanding about, you know, developing an innovative mindset. And these are all skills you're going to really need in such a fast changing business world.
Helen,
yeah.
Sorry to interject there, but I thought just on what you're saying there about the resilience, etc.
Yes.
I think this would be a good time for me to ask, you know, what is it that you're looking for from an applicant who applies for one of our part-time professional MBA programs?
Yeah. So candidates, when they're applying for an MBA, you know, they've usually reached a point in their career where they're looking to develop further and to really grow and develop. And particularly at the moment in this very fast changing business world, you really, you know, candidates really need to gain the skills that's going to make them resilient, future-proof their career. I think candidates can think it's quite intimidating applying to a top business school. So we want to reassure you, it's not intimidating. We're really friendly, supportive. We're here to help and answer all your questions. What we're looking for is, you know, we're not looking for like the perfect candidate. We're looking to see you as a person. We want to understand about your motivation for why you want to do an MBA, how that fits in with your career goals, and how our program can help you. So for the Global MBA, you know, you need to have at least 3 years of meaningful experience, ideally showing growing responsibility and leadership potential. On average, students on our Global MBA have around 11 to 12 years of experience, but the minimum is 3, and the age range is actually quite wide. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about profile later. For the Global Executive MBA, this is for our very senior, more senior leaders. So people who are already in senior leadership roles with significant management experience. So a minimum of 8 years, but around 17 years of professional experience is what we would expect for our Global Executive MBA. So we do, sorry, Chris, yes.
No, you mentioned leadership when you were speaking about the part-time global MBA moment a few seconds ago. Is it necessary to have managerial experience to apply for the Manchester Global MBA?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chris. And I think, yeah, I think people can be sometimes confused about what we're looking for when we're talking about management or leadership experience. So for the Global MBA, you don't need to have formal managerial experience to apply. What we're looking for is that you have that potential to grow into senior roles. So we want to see that when you're progressing in your career and that you have some leadership experience. But that doesn't mean necessarily managing a team. It's more about a kind of level of responsibility where you're having an impact in your role. You might be leading projects or handling some budgets or managing some key clients or things like that. So it's kind of, you reach that point where you're like, yeah, but now I need more knowledge across all the different business areas. I need to gain some really essential skills in understanding complex problem solving and strategy and international perspective, and all of those key skills that you're going to need to grow into those leadership positions in the future.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. So we know now then that formal people managerial experience isn't necessarily a prerequisite for our global MBA.
Yeah.
What about for our global executive MBA then? Is it needed there?
Yeah, Chris, absolutely. It is needed for the Global Executive MBA. So there is a real clear distinction that the Global Executive MBA is for senior leaders, people with a significant amount of management experience. So that is required. So you would need to already be a senior manager or an established entrepreneur as well. We have entrepreneurs on that program as well. And I guess our GEMBA candidates are looking for more of a fast-paced leadership strategy-focused program that's going to develop their career even further. So that's what we try to deliver for our Global Executive MBA. But yes, definitely need to have that management experience, and quite a significant amount for the Global Executive MBA.
Yeah, you used the word there, clear distinction. So let's go one step further then, just to give more overall insights to the audience. What is the age range of the Global MBA, and what is the age range of the Global Executive MBA?
Yeah, okay, well, it's quite interesting because there is actually an overlap in terms of the age range, and we'll explain that in a moment. But on the Global MBA, the age ranges is very wide. It's from around 24 to 46 currently, across the whole of the community. And the average is around 35 to 36, which I know seems actually quite high when the minimum requirement is to have 3 years of work experience. And that's because it is a really big range. We still have quite senior people taking our Global MBA because, as I mentioned at the beginning, it is our most flexible option. So, it's kind of more flexible than the Global Executive MBA, where you do actually travel as a cohort to our international centres over the 18 months of the programme. So the Global Executive MBA is much more structured, and you have to follow that path, and you do need to attend the workshops in the international centres. So yeah, so it's a very wide range, but the Global MBA is suitable for people from young people looking to grow in their careers, and people who are really trying to maybe change from quite technical roles, maybe into more strategic, or just gain that knowledge and skills that they didn't acquire along the way. The Global Executive MBA, the range is from around 35 to 58, with the average of 41 to 42. So I guess that reflects more that there is a significant more amount of management experience within that small cohort there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what's interesting then, if we go back to how I began this webinar by giving you all an insight to the different types of programs available. You know, when you often look at traditional executive MBAs, what you will find is the average age of those traditional programs being about 36, 37, which is what we have on our global MBA, which echoes Helen's point that we do still have those people with significant experience on our global MBA. I think the interesting thing for us at Manchester is because we've got 2 programs available for professionals who want to work full time. That's why you're seeing an average age of 41, 42 on our global executive MBA, which is not something you would ordinarily see. On the point on age experience, Helen,
Yeah,
we are, you know, the average age is 35, 36, as we mentioned a couple of times, but we are also seeing younger applicants apply for the global MBA. Those who are in their 20s. I think this is especially true in Western parts of the world, but also in other parts. Why do you think that is? And do you want to see applications from that demographic?
oh yeah, Chris, absolutely, you're right. We are seeing more applications from younger candidates, you know, in their 20s applying for the global MBA. And yeah, we absolutely would encourage, you know, these kind of candidates to apply as well. I mean, so, you know, if you've got 3, 4, 5 years of experience and you're someone who really wants to grow and develop quickly in your career, then I think that, you know, look at this global MBA. I think it comes down to what I mentioned earlier about, you know, future proofing your career in this rapidly changing business environment. You know, we've got all the things about AI coming in, and there's a lot of change that's happening with technology. So, you know, having ambitious early, what we call like early career professionals who want to accelerate their growth, gain that global perspective, develop leadership skills earlier, why not? I think that's a really great thing to do because it sets you ahead of the game. It gives you skills maybe that other candidates that you're going to be in competition with in a more competitive business world. It sets you apart. So yeah, I think it's all about, you know, having that potential, the motivation, and feeling that readiness to really benefit from the MBA. But if you feel that that's you, then absolutely, we would love to hear from you and for you to apply.
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. You know, I know we've got people in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s on today's webinar. And for those of you who are in your 20s, you might also be thinking between doing a part-time MBA and also potentially doing a full-time MBA. So, you know, you can speak to the team and myself on an individual basis on that to really focus on your profile. My last question, Helen, was about, you know, do you want to see applications from a certain demographic? And on the point of applications, you know, many MBA applicants can often apply to 3, maybe even 5 MBA programs, and it's a costly process with application fees mounting up. What's the cost of applying for the Manchester MBA?
Yeah, well, we don't actually charge an application fee. I think, yeah, we just don't really feel that it's right that candidates should have to pay to apply. You know, we'd like to have a conversation with you, like we said at the beginning, you know, and to really get to know you as a person. So you can reach out to us even before you apply, you know, talk to the recruitment team, you can share your CV, we can talk you through the programs and your profile, see which program is the best for you. So you can even do all that up front before you even apply, but there is no application fee.
Excellent, thanks. I think a number of people in the audience will like the sound of that. back to your point about, getting to know the applicants as individuals.
Yes.
Another way that we would be doing that is through the essays on the application. How many essays do we require, and what is it that you're looking for in those essays?
Yes. Okay. Essays. Oh, that sounds awful, doesn't it? It sounds like going back to school. I think people are always kind of a bit apprehensive about the idea they have to write an essay as part of an MBA application form. Honestly, don't think of it like that at all. There are 2 essays, but they are very much focused on you as a person. You don't have to go off and do research, because hopefully you know yourself. And through the process of doing the essays, it'll help you to also really think about why you do want to do an MBA. So the essays are asking about you, your career growth, your achievements, your motivation for wanting to do an MBA. Where you see yourself in the future, what you hope to gain in terms of skills from the program. So the essays are very much focused on having the opportunity to share your story, if you like. Put some. You can use those essays to really share who you are. Share your story, be authentic. Please don't just copy and paste your CV in there. That is just not going to help. We just want to hear from you. We want to know you and get to understand why doing an MBA is important to you, so we can also see, what is your fit with our MBA, and what is it that you can bring as well to our MBA cohort, because obviously, collaboration, teamwork, learning from each other is such an important thing within an MBA and within an international context. So we also want to kind of understand about you as a person, your values, your teamwork, your leadership experience, and personal achievements. It's always really interesting to know that. We read a lot of essays, so, try and tell us about you and make it interesting.
I think that's great advice, especially for those in the audience who have decided that they do want to apply for the Manchester Global MBA. Also, for those of you who are still considering different programs, different schools, I'd keep Helen's words there, because that's useful advice for any MBA application, actually. References. Is that something that is required, and how many are needed?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question, Chris. We're currently asking that you provide 1 reference, but we've actually recognised that there's actually limited value with the references, and often candidates don't wish to approach their referee until they've been offered a place. So at the moment we are asking for 1, but we are reviewing this, and it may be, I think we probably will not have this requirement in the future. So just keep an eye on that. But at the moment we're asking for 1 reference, which should be a professional reference from somebody who knows you in the workplace, who can kind of comment on your suitability for an MBA and for having that potential to grow in your career.
I think that's quite interesting there, because you've basically identified something where you thought is how much use are the students getting out of that, and it's just brought something to my head there, of something that we implemented before COVID, and this is about the program, not necessarily about admissions, but I think it's worth sharing this with you, because of the types of individuals we have across our programs. We were thinking, will you benefit? Do you still need to do traditional exams when you're a senior practitioner? And we decided, actually, no. What people want is real life application, and they want to be working on assignments, etc., either for their own companies or for companies of their peers in their classroom, so that they would be able to do really apply what they've learned in the classroom in real life settings. And I only make that point just because of what Helen's just said there. We are constantly evolving, whether it's from an admissions point of view, whether it's from a program point of view. But back to admissions now then. And I want to touch on admissions tests here now, Helen.
Okay, the dreaded subject.
So how important are test scores, grades, extracurriculars in the application review process?
Yeah, okay, that's also a good question, Chris. So yeah, candidates can get really worried about the idea of doing a test. So it's just a helpful indicator, but it's just one indicator. Okay, so I think I mentioned at the beginning, want to know you as a person. So we take a holistic view of all of the application elements. So what I usually say to candidates is, you know, when reviewing an application, what do we do? Well, the first thing that I would do is I would look at a CV. Okay, I would look at a CV and go, okay, that's my first point. And I go, okay, you know, what does this person's career look like? How they've been growing? What achievements they have? Okay, yeah, they look like a suitable person for the MBA. Okay, so first point. I would then go and look at the essays and go, okay, what's this person's story? You know, okay, what can they tell me more about what they've been doing and what personal achievements may they have as well? You know, what is their fit with our MBA program? I would look at the academics, see if you've got a degree. Okay, have you got a decent degree to show that you're going to be able to cope with the academic requirements on the MBA? And only then am I going to go and look at an admissions test, because the admissions test is just a piece of information. But it's a helpful one, you know, it might help us to identify maybe where you're going to need additional support as well. The admissions test that most of our candidates take for the Global MBA and the Global Executive MBA is not the GMAT or the GRE. So you don't need to worry about having to do all the preparation for that. We do have our own admissions test, call them Manchester admissions test. And it doesn't require preparation. There's 3 assessments, they're about 15 minutes each. One of those is verbal reasoning, the second is numerical reasoning, and the third is logic. So yeah, do not be put off by an admissions test. You know, it is one element of a whole application.
Yeah, thanks. And I think with that admissions test that you complete after you've submitted the application, you know, a tip I often give in terms of preparation to candidates is spend 15 to no more than 30 minutes taking some practice questions.
Yeah.
And then you're good to go on the test. So from a time commitment, not it's certainly not strenuous. Nothing like the GMAT, which you know, I often say to people, take 3 months to prepare to take that test. Maybe more things that are specific here to our programs. Helen, what are the intakes for both programs if people are looking at 2026?
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Well, for both of our professional MBA programs, the Global MBA and the Global Executive MBA, we have 2 intakes a year. So they are January and July. So our next program starts in early Jan 26. So there's still plenty of time to apply for January, should you wish to. Hopefully we've inspired you through this webinar. The final application date for the Global MBA programs is Friday the 28th of November. I think that's what it is. Yeah, so there's plenty of time to still get your application in, and I know Chris's team will definitely support you with any questions that you've got, as will mine. Yeah,
I'm just seeing some questions coming in as well, and there's one of them I'm going to address, which we've sort of covered. And someone was asking about, you know, why do we need these admissions tests? I don't often see them when I'm applying for jobs in organisations, etc. And I think there's some of what you've typed there, we completely resonate with, and that is why we moved away from the GMAT or GRE, something that I've just said a couple of moments ago, that takes about 3 months to prepare, to something that can be basically completed within 45 to 60 minutes. So we certainly appreciate the time pressure our candidates are under in general. So what we're not looking to do is design an admissions process that is there to take weeks and months for someone to go through. We actually, from point of application to getting an answer, you're looking at a maximum of 2 weeks. And the key reason for that is the profile of our applicants. They do need to know exactly where they stand, and we want to get back to people in a timely manner. So by all means, please keep putting some questions there. We will get to them. So you mentioned there about the intakes, Helen.
Oh, yes.
Are there any advantages to applying earlier in the admission cycle, or is it the same, irrespective if you apply on, the 25th of September versus the 25th of November?
So, I mean, in terms of getting a place on the program, it doesn't matter. If you are the right candidate, you will get a place. Okay, but yeah, there are some advantages though in applying early, of course, and I think probably 2 spring to mind really. One is, of course, access to bursaries and scholarships. So we do have those funding opportunities, and early applicants get first access to those funding opportunities. So always good to try and apply earlier if you can. And then of course, if you're applying to things like the master's loan, if you're a UK candidate applying for the master's loan, you want to get those applications and things sorted as soon as possible. I think the other thing is, the advantage is that so you can be prepared. We have an MBA prep course, MBA preparation course. And so the earlier you get your place, the earlier you get access to the MBA prep. And that's going to be hugely beneficial to you in getting started on the right footing. You're probably not, studied for a while. So there's lots of study skills in there. And there's introduction to some of the key subjects that you will be learning during the initial stages of the MBA. So I think, access to bursaries and scholarships, knowing where you stand, making arrangements as well that you're going to have the time for making the time for your MBA. So getting organised, doing the MBA preparation course.
Thanks. On bursaries and scholarships, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions on that momentarily. But before I do that, I want to address another question that I've seen in the Q&A box. And this is a great question because it puts the global executive MBA almost against each other in a sense here. And what you're asking is, are there any flexible options if life gets in the way during the part-time MBA and you need to take a few weeks, months, or even years off? And that's a really good question because we know busy professionals will often need, more time. They're at stages in their careers where they could be securing promotions, and the beauty of undertaking an MBA whilst working full time is you don't have to wait until you complete an MBA to take that next step in your careers. Countless times I can recall stories of hearing our students who said, yeah, within 6 months I was promoted or I moved company. But what I will say there is our part-time global MBA is one of the most flexible programs, I think on the market. Actually, 78% of students will complete our part-time global MBA in 2 years, as it shows in our, on our website, on our brochure, etc. It doesn't mean the other 22% are not graduating. No, what it means is that they've decided to take a bit longer. So whether that be an extra 6 months or whether that be an extra 2 years. So that flexibility is there. The Global Executive MBA this one is slightly different. Everything I've said so far, yes, it could be applied for the Global Executive MBA, but the real value of the Global Executive MBA is completing it in 18 months with your classmates that you start the program with. That is not so much as big a necessity on the Global MBA because your network is constantly evolving on that program. So yes, there's flexibility on both programs, but if you are wanting to gain the most out of the flexibility, I think the Global MBA makes more sense there. Back to you now, Helen. In terms, an MBA, without a doubt, is a significant investment. The cost is especially high if you're looking at studying an MBA at one of the top schools in the UK or one of the top schools in the world. So what is the cost of our Global MBA and our Global Executive MBA?
Yeah, okay, you're right, Chris. There is a significant cost of doing an MBA at a top business school like ours, but the return on that investment is just immeasurable, really, in terms of growth, career opportunities, and being able to continue to thrive, as I said at the beginning, in that very fast changing business world. So you're going to get the return on that investment. But in the actual tuition fee, the Global MBA program for the 24-month, which is the standard length of time, is £33,000 UK pounds. We do have, by the way, a Global Finance Accelerated route. So if you've got a professional accountancy qualification like a CCA or CIMA, you could shorten the Global MBA by 6 months, and the tuition fee, because you wouldn't need to take the finance elements, obviously, and then the tuition fee is £30,500. Yeah, and we do have bursaries available for the Global MBA program. So for the January intake, yeah, we still have those available. I'm trying to think now. I think they're up to 12.5% of, is that right? Oh, yeah, 12.5%. Yeah, and they're still available, but please do apply so that you can secure one of those. The Global Executive MBA. Now, obviously, this is more expensive. I think it's actually tremendously good value compared to many of our competitors. And the tuition fee, oh my gosh, Chris, I think it's, what is it? 50,250.
40.
Completely got out of my head.
Even less than what Helen said. What I will say with regards to the fees on both of these programs, my advice to you is not necessarily to be looking just at the price of those programs. Of course, without a doubt, cost is important. But the structure and format of both of those programs, I believe, to be more important. We do have scholarships available on that Global Executive MBA, which can significantly bring that cost down to sometimes on par with our Global MBA. And the reason why we don't have scholarships on our Global MBA, Helen mentioned earlier that is by far our largest, biggest program. And what we want to do is to help as many people with the cost of their program, with the cost of their fees, which is why instead of giving some higher value scholarships to a small amount of people, we've decided to offer bursaries for everyone. And it's not a case of whether you need that or not. And in terms of helping with fees, which is very, very important, Helen. You launched something in 2025, so very, very new, very timely. And this was also to help our applicants, and it was to do with installments. So previously, you had to pay the program on a semesterly basis, and it was and that's what it's been for years. Can you talk to the audience about the changes that you implemented earlier this year, please?
Yeah, sure, Chris. And just to clarify, the the Global Executive MBA tuition fee is £43,250. But just to bear in mind with that it does include the accommodation for the residences that you would undertake for the core courses as well. So that's quite a significant amount of time. So that is included because we want you to be together as a cohort and to share those experiences, not just in the classroom, but out of the classroom as well. So when you come to Manchester or go to Dubai or go to Hong Kong, the accommodation will be covered as part of that tuition fee as well. Yeah, and we do have generous scholarships for the Global Executive MBA. And also we have some specific scholarships for women because we really want to, they can be up to 30% of the tuition fee, quite generous actually, because we really want to support women, you know, stepping into senior leadership roles. That's part of our commitment as a business school to support that agenda as well. But yeah, flexible payments, Chris. Yeah, so the tuition fee used to be payable per term. So there would be four payments over the 24 months. But you know, that's quite tough for people maybe to do. So we've introduced an installment plan. So the Global MBA is now payable in 12 installments over 24 months. And the Global Finance Accelerated the route for people with the ACCA, CIMA or equivalent accountancy qualification, and GEMBA, which are both 18 months. There are 9 installments over that period of time. So it just means that, you know, the payments are spread out over a longer period of time, which I think really helps people to manage their finances better.
Sorry, I'd muted myself there. Also, another question here for those of you who are University of Manchester alumni. Someone was asking if there are discounts on the fees, and yes, the answer is all University of Manchester alumni receive a 20% discount on their MBA fees. But I think, just for me to close the conversation on fees, financing here, obviously incredibly important. I also think you know, it's worth you looking at the options available. You know, as I clearly said at the beginning of this webinar, there's so many options available to you, and they will have varying degrees, varying fee structures. One of the advantages of joining, I think, our programs is because of the scale of this business school, because of the size of our MBA programs. And what it has meant is we have been able to keep that fee at a relatively low base in comparison to the other top schools in the UK. You know, I often say there's 5 world-class business schools in the UK as a minimum, and in those 5, Manchester is one of them. And then when you compare those fees, that you will see that there is a notable difference. But I go back to that point I made a couple of minutes ago. I also think it's very important for all of you to be looking at the structure and format of respective programs, and I don't just mean our Global MBA and Global Executive MBA. So I'm gonna I think couple of final questions for Helen upcoming, although Elgan, I see a question from you here as well, where you were asking about the assessment styles, which I briefly touched on earlier, and you're asking in terms of the balance between individual and group assessments, pretty much the answer to that is 50-50, that you would do an individual, an individual assignment, and then you do a group assessment during the workshop period. Some academics, not all, it's a minority, might give you 2 individual assessments as well as a group assessment. You will have a group assessment in each workshop, and that will involve you on the 3rd and final day of each class delivering a group presentation and submitting a brief written report. But as I also said earlier, it's a great opportunity, especially with your individual assessments, where you, on a number of occasions, you will be able to directly use your own organisation. So for those of you who are potentially looking at securing company funding, that is a good negotiation tactic to use with your employer in terms of the additional value that you can present to them whilst you're studying for your MBA. So 2 final questions then from me for you, Helen. What is the one thing you wish more applicants understood before applying for the Manchester MBA?
Okay. I think the thing I'd like all applicants, regardless whether that's global MBA or the full-time MBA, to understand is that, we really value you as a person. You're not, we're not just going to look at your academics, your test scores. It's not about ticking boxes. It's about really trying to understand, you as a person, what motivates you, about how we can help you to achieve your career goals, your potential to grow. But I think we do want to kind of understand, how you're going to thrive in a global and collaborative learning environment. That's really important as well. So, yeah, it's very much a holistic kind of view when we're looking at applications. There's not one element that is more important than the other, apart from having the right type of professional experience.
Thank you, Helen. Yemi, I've just seen your question as well, which I will read out loud before answering it. Would it be advisable to go for GEMBA if you're in a non-finance leadership role? So the the 2 things that I found interesting in that question was the words non-finance and leadership. So I'll break that down. The non-finance doesn't matter. You don't need to be an expert in finance to be applying for any of our MBAs. An MBA is a general management qualification. If you're coming with, I don't know, a marketing background or an engineering background, you're not going to do an MBA and become an accountant. So, but what you will do is you will understand the language that's spoken. You will be able to influence the financial direction of your department, your organization, and you will have the confidence to be able to speak with finance professionals. But you don't need that as a prerequisite. The word leadership, on the other hand, you do need that, as Helen has mentioned a couple of times. So that leadership is extremely important for the Global Executive MBA. And what I'll say to you, Yemi, and to everyone else, if you do want to have more in-depth personal conversations, then you can have that with the team and myself. Nan, Rupert, Charlotte, Lewis, Ekaterina, many of you will be familiar with those names, are certainly on hand, as am I, to have those conversations. We're attending events around the world at the moment. I know we've got audience from all over the world on this. So we're going to be in a number of countries in Africa next month. We're going to be in a number of countries in Latin America. We've just been doing a number of events in North America, and we'll also be attending some events in Europe. So again, do get in contact with us on that. So the final question then, Helen, which I'm going to pose to you is, oh, it's gone.
You're having the mind blank now.
I know, yeah. Is basically, well, I'll keep it very open-ended and casual, so you can take this in whatever direction you want.
Okay.
Final words of wisdom from you, Helen.
Final words of wisdom. Yes, okay. Well, I think they would be, look, the business world is changing super fast. So don't procrastinate. You need to be adaptable, you need to be flexible. So, make that investment in yourself to future-proof your career, get ahead of the game, and you'll have a much more rewarding career in the future. I think that would be my words of wisdom, hopefully.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you very much, Katerina, for setting this up. I hope you all found that useful. As I think a lot of the advice that Helen has given is useful, not just for the Manchester MBA programs, but just for all MBA programs. And I think, from our perspective, we're very confident in terms of the programs that we have, how we can develop and transform and produce global business leaders. That is one of the key things that our Manchester Global MBA and Global Executive MBA will do. So looking forward to having more of those in-depth individual conversations with you over the coming weeks and over the coming months, whether you're looking for an MBA for 2026 or even in 2027, please do reach out to us. Helen, thanks again for your time, and thank you all from all over the world who have attended today. Cheers.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.